With his take on that and much more from the presidential race. From Washington, D.C., the Deputy Communications Director of the Republican National Committee, Tim Miller. Mr. Miller, thanks for being here. I have to ask you, I mean, you guys want to talk about the economy. You want to talk about what the Obama administration has or hasn't done. And all anybody wants to talk about, thanks to Harry Reid, are Mitt Romney's tax returns.
Well, you know, I think we spent enough Harry Reid's hallucinations, John, and you know the reason why all the Democrats want to talk about our tax returns is because they can't talk about the president's record. So they're grasping at any straw that they can find, so that they don't have to talk about the stimulus, which is a dirty word for this president, even though it was his signature legislation to try to fix the economy and it failed. He doesn't want to talk about Obamacare. He doesn't want to talk about how he tried to pass cap and trade. And so what this president's going to run on in this campaign is negative character attacks on Mitt Romney. So that's what he's out there doing and what Harry Reid's out there doing. But, you know, what we're going to focus on is his record and the issues and Mitt's vision for this country.
I'm glad that we'll never see any negative character attacks from the Republican National Committee. Beyond that point, all the national networks, as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Miller, led with the tax return story. You can't get away from it. Whether Reid has a source or not, people, I think, are going to keep asking the question, how rich is this guy, aren't they?
Well, look, I think what most Americans care about, the Americans that I'm talking to, is their own tax rate, their own tax returns, not Governor Romney's. He's released his tax returns for 2010 and 11, released personal financial disclosures in 2008, all the way back to when he was governor. There's reams of data out there about him, and what the American people are concerned about is what's going to happen to their tax bill, whether it's the middle-class tax hike that was part of Obamacare, the tax on small businesses that the president's trying to put forth, the mining tax out there in Nevada, and there are a lot of tax issues that are relevant to the voters in this campaign, much higher than Governor Romney's.
The other issue that, of course, has become relevant in recent days since the election of Paul Ryan as the vice presidential nominee to run with Mitt Romney is, of course, Medicare. And Ryan and Romney essentially have said, bring it on. Let's have that debate. Based on history, and you know this as a seasoned political operative, that have bludgeoned Republicans on Medicare and what you guys like to call Metascare for years. You really want to have that debate?
Well, I don't think that the president's campaign took a lesson from 2010, and I know we can have a chance to talk about Congressman Amadei's race out there, but across the nation in 2010, what the Democrats tried to do was attack the Republicans on the Republican budget, because you got to remember the president hasn't gotten a single vote for one of his budgets in years. The Senate, run by our pal Harry Reid, hasn't passed a budget in 3 years, and so what the Democrats tried to do is play the the Metascare game in 2010, and it didn't work. And you know why? It's because the American people rejected Obamacare. They didn't like that the president raided Medicare to the tune of $700 billion to pay for his unpopular big government health care plan. Across the nation, we had members of Congress running on that message in 2010. It was overwhelmingly successful in Nevada. So we're ready for this fight. We think the American people want to have an honest discussion about it. They want the Romney-Ryan plan, which is, look, we're not going to do anything for folks 55 and older, but what we're going to do is reform this for the long term so that it's solvent for future generations. And they're not happy with the president's record on it of raiding Medicare to pay for Obamacare. So this is a fight we're ready to take on.
You used the verb raid a couple of times, so let's talk about that magic $700 million. What I don't understand about this is that Paul Ryan adopted those same so-called cuts in his budget. In Obamacare, the $700 million is being used to offset payments. Billion. Well, I keep saying billion. You know, pretty soon we're talking about real money. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The $700 billion it has to do with payments to hospitals and insurance companies. Ryan those savings in his plan. We don't know what your presidential nominee is going to do with that $700 billion. Where is he going to get that savings?
We do.
Okay, tell us.
We do know what Governor Romney's going to do. He's been clear from the start. He's going to repeal Obamacare. and every part of it, which includes the cuts to Medicare that the president put forth. He's going to invest that money back into the Medicare Trust Fund, which is where it should be, since that's what seniors have been paying into for decades now. And as it relates to Congressman Ryan, the one thing that you're wrong about there is at no point did Congressman Ryan say, you know what, I think that we should cut Medicare in order to pay for Obamacare. Congressman Ryan was one of the leading opponents of Obamacare. So Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan see eye to eye on this. It's exactly the opposite of what the president wants to do. We saw it today when Mitt Romney took out the whiteboard to try to explain it to the media, who seem to be the ones who are confused. What Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan want to do is reform it for future generations, keep Medicare the same, refund that $700 billion so that folks 55 and over don't see any changes. And the president, we saw what he did. He took $700 billion out of Medicare, and he has no plan, even though Medicare goes bankrupt in 12 years.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, both sides talking about this. You know, even if you take what the Democrats say the numbers are, it only goes to 2024. But still, this argument over entitlements that Paul Ryan says he wants to have, that Mitt Romney says he wants to have, it has to do with some very painful decisions. And all we're going to see, right, are just you guys on the other side pointing fingers. Please don't tell me I'm wrong again. I can't take it.
Well, look, no, I think that when it comes to entitlement reform, that's very important, and we need to have a discussion about this. And it all goes back to the debt and deficit problem. And if you look at what the president has done over the past 3 years, he ran the three largest deficits in the history of the country. He's about to do number 4 as we come up on this year. And you know, one of the best parts of the Paul Ryan pick is that it reinforced the fact that the Governor Romney, when he's president, is going to take on the debt and deficit issue in a serious way when it comes to entitlement. And that means long-term structural reforms. What it doesn't mean is haphazard cuts right now to Medicare for people who are currently seniors. And you know, you had a fellow from the Democratic National Committee on last night who said that $700 billion wasn't necessary. I think that the seniors who paid into Medicare would disagree with that. They think that what they paid in was necessary, and they didn't want it to go to this Obamacare boondoggle. So I think we're ready for a serious conversation about this. I think it's a big question mark whether the president is, since he hasn't offered a single plan to deal with Medicare or Social Security long term, even though he promised he'd do that in 2000. So I think that's a net plus for our ticket.
All right, real quickly, because you are the equivalent of a U.S. senator in your ability to filibuster, sir. I got to ask you one question about Nevada, and that is, why are you guys snubbing a Hispanic governor who's popular, Brian Sandoval? You guys are rolling out all these people who were speaking at your convention. No mention of Brian Sandoval. Why do you not like him, sir?
I don't think anybody's snubbing Brian Sandoval. When it comes, we love the Nevada team. When it comes to Sandoval, heck, Amedee, all of these folks have been out there campaigning hard for Mitt Romney and the Republican ticket. They're all going to be out next week when the president comes to town to give him a Republican Nevada greeting. So they're all going to be down there in Tampa.
You didn't answer my question. Why isn't Sandoval speaking at the convention? What's the story?
You're going to have to talk to the convention guys about how they're doing the rollouts. There are going to be a lot of folks speaking, and absolutely the whole Nevada team is going to be down there and a part of our operation.
All right. Tim Miller, I really appreciate your willingness to come on the program. Enjoyed having you here. Come back and get Reince Priebus back on soon, too.
We'll get Reince on. We'll see you on Twitter, John. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for being on the program.